Welcome to Travel Secrets with me, Tanya Rose, the podcast sharing wisdom for fellow travellers. Each week, I ask my guests to reveal their 6 travel secrets and the holidays and adventures that surround them. Today, my guest is the lovely Viv Paxinos. I hope I've got that right.
You did. Well done.
The CEO of AllBright, which is the most fantastic club for women. You are all about empowering women, looking after women and helping women grow, which I absolutely love. And it is the club to be a member of. Before that, you were with the BBC and MTV and made huge changes and waves there. So I can't wait to hear all about that. And you travel far and wide. And I know that travel and wellness is very much part of who you are. So I can't wait to hear your travel secrets.
Thank you so much for having me, Tanya. I'm thrilled to be here.
Well, welcome. And before we get into the travel secrets, perhaps you can tell us a little bit about yourself and how travel has impacted the person that you have become today.
Absolutely. So I was born and raised in Montreal, and I was living in a little suburb. My family's Greek, and I lived in a suburb with just Greek people. And from a very young age, I just knew I wanted to do more. I take after my dad. He left his village when he was 13. And so when I was actually 18, I decided to move out of the house. My parents were so upset. They didn't speak to me for a little while. And I've moved into the city. I've always had this, I just wanted to be independent. You know, my parents taught me about hard work and work ethic, and I just wanted to do things myself. And so I took a backpack, moved into the city, and then a few years later, I decided to take another backpack and I moved to London. So traveling, taking, risks, learning, pushing myself through my comfort zone has always been a big part of me. When I was in London, at some point, I decided I wanted to live in Paris. So I took my backpack again, went to work for the Wall Street Journal in Paris for a little while, did that, and then came back here. But travel has always been part of my career. So what I loved about my roles at MTV and the BBC, it allowed me to see the world. So for MTV, I looked after emerging markets. So I traveled all around Central and Eastern Europe, the Middle East, Africa. I have hilarious stories about that. When I was at the BBC, I look after all of the EMEA. So again, I traveled so much. I must have gone to South Africa specific 25 times.
Wow.
So it's always been a big part of who I am, and it just allows me to just learn, grow, have fun, and explore.
How amazing. And I remember reading an article, I think it might have been on your LinkedIn page, about your father leaving when he was so young. So he left Greece to go to Montreal, did he?
He left Greece, his village at 13 because his entire family were farmers, and he did not want to be a farmer. And so one day they got a call from an uncle in Athens and said, "We need a village boy to just help us in our shop. Is there anyone that wants to come and help?" So my dad raised his hand and again took a bag. And he tells the story that his shoes weren't even matching. He had a string holding up his trousers, and moved to Athens and worked at his uncle's shop. He literally just slept on a mattress on the floor, went to school at the same time, and then paid his way through school, university, and then moved to Canada at a very young age, where he met my mom and on a blind date. And then 6 weeks later, they got married. And they are still very happily married.
Is she Canadian, your mother?
She is Greek as well.
Oh, she is Greek.
She's part in Greek. So I take a lot of my personality traits from my mom. She's a traditional Spartan woman, so very independent, very strong. And so they met in Canada, got married, and have been there now for 50 years.
So that travel and getting up and go is very much in your blood.
I think it's that sense of adventure. Yeah. I sometimes think, gosh, sitting still is the worst thing for me. I think we talked about it's not about attention span, but it's about, I always like to push myself past my comfort zone. I always like to be learning. That's why I love the work that I do, because I'm always constantly learning from people around me. So I think it's pushing myself to do things, differently. to also just live the best life that I can.
Well, I know that you're massively into your wellness and fitness. And every time I've met you, you've already been to the gym at 4 a.m. or something. So I'm very envious that you have that.
It wasn't always that way. I speak about it quite publicly. When I took over AllBright, I throw myself into work because it's just who I am. And I was making a lot of changes, and I could see that I was approaching the burnout stage. And then one day an ad popped up on my Instagram feed to go to this unstressable retreat that Mogadat and Alice Law lead. And I just booked it instantly. And it changed my entire approach to life. And I really embarked on a wellness journey, a longevity journey, really. So I really take a lot of interest in how my body works inside and out, and understand my hormones and all of that, and adjust my supplements and my diet accordingly. I exercise a lot. I lift a lot of heavy weights. It really makes me feel strong. But I've just started to do Pilates, and then I'm doing a lot of breathing. So I think I'm actually going to try and get some kind of certification in breathing. I'm quite interested in how breathing helps us control our nervous system, and how that helps us not just be a great leader, but great mom, great wife, great friend. All of that. So much comes from breathing.
Well, I know that AllBright, you have these wellness days where you have fantastic speakers as well. Yeah. So you're empowering other women to look after themselves too, aren't you?
Absolutely. And there's often like a narrative, I think, once we get over 40 that it's downhill, and, we were trying to do it all. And I'm committed to changing that narrative and making sure that empowering women to just look after themselves first. And that's not being selfish. It's not even self-care. It's just looking after you, right? Yeah. That's, I think the term self-care is sometimes a bit misleading as well.
Yeah. And when we met, I was talking to you about our fasting clinic in Germany, Booking Her Wilhelmi, which is all about fasting and breathing and living, longevity. And I still think it's the most amazing place. You really must go there. I know you would love it.
Yeah. And I'm into fasting, not intermittent fasting, but I will fast for a few days. I will do a water fast just to cleanse my body, which is quite intense, but I'll do that once every 6 months, and usually about 48 hours.
Yeah. It's the most amazing thing. I do it every year in January, and I, for the first few days, feel terrible. Yep. But after 14 days, my mind is so clear, my creative juices are flowing, and my team say they know when I'm on like day 10, because I start emailing, having not contacted them at all, saying, what about this? What about this? And they say, aha, she's nearly finished. Yeah. We know what she's going to come back with. Loads of things.
And it's so difficult at the beginning because your mind plays games with you. Like, just have a little bit to eat. It's going to be okay. Don't worry. And you're like, no, I can do it. So you go back and forth, and am I tired? Should I just break the fast? But if you just work through that bit, and I just think that resilience and getting through that uncomfortable bit is just so powerful.
Yeah, so good for
and
you.
your body feels so great and so light. Yeah. But I take a lot of care in, what I eat, the supplements I take, the amounts of steps I take, the breathe, all of that. Yeah. And I'm just so much better for it.
Yeah. And you look marvelous as well.
Thank you. I love my skincare as well.
Let's get into your travel secrets. What is the number one destination that you think everybody should go to once in their lifetime?
Greece. Of course, because of my Greek roots. Yeah. I absolutely love everything about Greece. I love the people, their warmth. They're slightly dramatic and loud and intense, and I love that. I love the food, and there's so much to discover. Like I know everyone tends to go to the islands, but the mainland is so beautiful. And there are a few places in Greece that I feel completely at ease and at home, and I have to go there like once a year. Yeah. I absolutely love it. I've met a few people this year that haven't been to Greece. I'm like, how can you not have gone to Greece?
It's just such an amazing,
it's just
amazing
and the color of the sky is just everything about it is just, it's just my favorite place in the world. Absolutely favorite.
I grew up going on flotilla holidays with my parents where they have like 10 boats and you go from island to island. And we were the worst crew. My father always used to get the prize with a cat of nine tails because we were so mutinous. We were so bad, but we did go every year, and it was just so lovely. You would go to these tavernas, you go to little nightclubs and bars, even when we were teenagers, and you knew it was safe, that our parents could leave us on our own.
Yeah.
The people are just divine.
I just love it. So I take my kids in the summer. They spend 6 weeks in the village where my dad's from.
Oh, how wonderful.
And that's really important to me. So that connecting with the roots, and my kids also connecting with those roots. And it's not it's not a village that's fancy at all. There are 3 restaurants, a pharmacy, a church, a coffee shop, and that's probably about it. And there's about 1,000 people. I think I'm related to like 400 of them because we've got such a big family in Greece. But I give my eldest like €5 and he'll leave at 7 p.m. and he'll come back up around 11. And he just he'll get a souvlaki, he'll play with his friends. And it's just and I think that's why it's also so special to me, right? It's that, that.
Do they speak Greek, your children?
My kid, they do. Yeah, they do. And they're not far from where we stay. So we stay in the house. And when my dad left the village, it's called Playa. My grandfather, when my grandfather passed away, he left the house to my dad because he was the only one of his children that went abroad. And then we've added 2 bedrooms to it. We've extended to it. So my parents come back from Canada to Greece every summer and they stay there. And so the kids stay there. And then we take them to the old house where he was born in, which is completely destroyed, and the village is destroyed because of an earthquake. And it's just so important for the kids to see, well, actually, this is where we came from. This is where their granddad came from, and everything he's accomplished now.
Amazing.
And it's also a very, the village is very basic. And so they don't have that commercial, that materialism that we have so much around us here in London. So taking kids away from that environment, putting them there, even for myself, I mean, I'm in flip-flops, hair in a ponytail, no makeup. I go running around the village to get my exercise. There's no gym when I'm staying in the village. So it's a completely different lifestyle and mindset.
Well, it's great because it grounds you, doesn't it?
It does ground you.
Yeah. And we're very privileged and we travel all the time. We go to amazing restaurants. So it's very good to go back to your roots, I think. Yeah. Greece, obviously, we all need to go to, but are there any specific places that you think people should definitely go to in Greece?
Yes, there's an island called Ithaki, or Ithaca in English, which is my favorite place in Greece. I have no ties to it from a family point of view, but it's not far from where we're from, and you can only get there either by helicopter or by boat. There's no airport. You can get there from Kefalonia or Lefkada, and it's a small island. It's where Odyssey wrote. Oh my God.
The Iliad.
No, the other one.
Homer wrote the Iliad.
Homer wrote the Odyssey. I was getting it wrong. Where Homer wrote the Odyssey. And that's where it takes place. So it's this whole homage to Homer. But it's just the most beautiful island. It's so green. And you can there's just one road that goes around it. The restaurants are just absolutely amazing. And it's so simple, yet quite chic and elegant in a very understated way. There's this beautiful beach called Filiatro, and it's just, time just passes by.
That's such a great recommendation.
So lovely.
Can you stay on the island?
You stay on the island. So I stay at a hotel called Perantzada, and I've stayed there since they opened. And it's a small boutique hotel with like 20 rooms. And they've known me since before having children to now having my children. They'll look after them when I go out in the evening. And it's just the most beautiful place. And it overlooks the marina. And there's something so special about it. The smell too, there's like olive trees everywhere. So the smell, the sea, the sky, and you can see all the beautiful restaurants lined up. And when I travel to Greece, I quite like things that are chilled. Yeah. And I'm not. I used to go to the other side, Mykonos, but I go to the quieter side now because I need to completely relax. So it's just my favorite. It's my favorite place in the world. I always say I'm going to retire there or buy a house there. I just absolutely love it. There's something special. I can't even describe like.
Well, do you know what? It's such a great travel tip and a secret because when you look at Greece, it's so overwhelming because there are so many beautiful islands and you think, well, what do I go to or where do I go to? And obviously you've got the party side and things. So that is a really great thing to know.
It's a gem. When my husband and I were talking about this podcast yesterday, he's like, what are you going to say? I'm like, I'm going to talk about Ithaca. He's like, no, then people will go.
Don't. That's exactly what my husband says too.
It is so special. Yeah. It just makes me smile even thinking about it.
How lovely. Yeah. How lovely. Well, I'm definitely writing that down on my list of places to go. Absolutely. So let's go on to your next travel secret. What is the most underrated or overrated travel experience that you have ever had?
I went to Norway. And I didn't know what to expect. I thought for sure it's just not for me. It's probably going to be too quiet. It was too outdoorsy. I bid on it on a school like auction. A family has a house there by the beach, and it was for the art program. So I bid an extraordinary amount to go rent a house for 5 days to donate to the school. And it's 30 minutes. The town wasn't, I thought it was near Stavanger, but it was 30 minutes away from Stavanger, and it was literally a house on a beach with nothing around it. I mean, the nearest house was a good 5-minute walk, and there were some farms nearby. And so when I got there, I was like, gosh, it's not going to work, right? I'm going to get bored. And I remember day 3, I said to my husband, should we try and fly back earlier? And he's like, I checked, it's too expensive. I'm sure he didn't, but it was just a way. And that disconnection is sometimes, I don't appreciate it as much. It took me a few days. And by day 4, I was like, I absolutely loved it. You know, the sun didn't set till like 11 p.m. So I was going for walks with my eldest around 10 in the evening. And I was running every day. I found my mind to be so clear. Everything functioned well. Everything was so easy. In fact, one day we went to an amusement park, and so funny because everyone was leaving their bags there. Of course, as Londoners, I'm carrying my handbag.
Of course, yeah.
And they said, no, leave it there. It's fine. I'm like, no.
Not
Someone's going to steal it. And they're like, no one's going to take anything here. So it was that taking down the pace in that way and being in nature and being in a place that there was just no rush, there was no stress, everything was easy. It rained quite a bit, but we're still out on the beach. And I just absolutely loved it. It completely surprised me, and it made me realize how important it is to take those moments to completely wind down. Yeah. And it does take a while to get there in terms of your mindset. Yeah.
Good job the planes weren't available for you, or your husband pretended.
I think
that
he pretended. He knows what to do.
We thought we've already got here.
I checked. Exactly. It's too expensive.
And was it summer? So it was light all night.
It was light till about midnight, which I've never experienced either.
It's extraordinary.
And the kids loved it. I mean, we were on the beach. We took walks. I went running every evening. I rediscovered my love for running because I thought there's just no gym around here. What am I going to do? And because I'm so routine focused, you know, like what I eat at a certain time, I go to the gym at a certain time. Nothing breaks my routine in London. I panicked the first few days. I thought, gosh, how am I going to exercise? How am I going to eat well? And then we just figured it all out.
Well, I think we all need that disconnect. So however we can find it, I think it's really, really important, whether it's lying on a beach or going somewhere different. So what is the most unexpected place that you've ever been to? Other than this, obviously, this was sort of something that you didn't know about, but have you ever been anywhere that was totally unexpected, that someone said to you are going to love this, and you didn't love it, or something happened to you when you were traveling?
I have a few unexpected. I really fell in love with Tokyo more than I expected it. I didn't know much about it when I went, and I went to Tokyo a long time ago, so probably about 15 years ago, and I went for work, and I just had business meetings. And I just did not expect to love it so much and to surprise me so much. I loved the care and the attention they put in everything and the detail. Yeah, I just found beautiful. Everything was so, so beautiful. I found the culture so interesting and fascinating. So I was, at the time, working in advertising. I was for the advertising department at the BBC. So I was going presenting to like massive ad agencies, and And there was the meetings, people were, didn't really engage. They were really cold and didn't engage. And then I'd go out in the evenings with them and have a dinner, and they were completely different people. And I found that contrast really interesting as well, how reserved they were in the work. And you see that as well, I guess, in Tokyo, like how beautiful and elegant it is. But actually, when you look at their nightlife, it's,
very trendy.
Very trendy. So I loved everything about it. In fact, if I wasn't married, I would have stayed there.
Really?
I felt completely at home, which I felt surprised me because I didn't understand the language. It was hard to get around. It's really busy. But I found some real, love, or I was really attracted to the elegance and the detail and how beautiful everything was. And
I love their stationery.
Yes.
I mean, the stationery shops in Tokyo.
I love the teacups.
And the teacups,
the teacups
exactly.
are so beautiful.
I actually bought a china set back with me when I went, and loads and loads of stationery.
I bought a little one as well. Yeah. And even the food is pretty, and their attention to detail and their attention to each other. I found something quite humble, quite respectful of how the people interacted with each other. And I guess that explains that contrast in the workplace. They're very respectful. They don't interrupt. They listen. They're more formal. And there's a time to be more social, which is in the evening.
Did you go to a karaoke bar with them?
Of course, I love karaoke. I am the queen of karaoke. In fact, when my team are stressed, we have a karaoke bar next to AllBright. I'm like, come on, guys, we're going for karaoke.
What's your karaoke song?
Oh, I often do, which is really embarrassing, but I'll say it because I always go with my team. I do Queen, We Are the Champions.
Oh, that's so wonderful.
I force them to sing with me, and they're totally embarrassed.
Empowers them all. Mine is Islands in the Stream by Dolly Parton and Kenny Rogers. I love that song. It's
but I
just
can do
wonderful.
anything. I love karaoke because I don't think we often we laugh at ourselves enough.
Exactly.
So letting loose and laughing and being silly at any age is so important. That's what I love about children, right? They laugh so much, and I just love getting my team to do that with me. Yeah.
Well, I think that's really lovely because also with AllBright, you're so much about empowering women and making them feel good. So to have that other side where it's actually quite fun as well. It's not just talking about business.
Absolutely.
Tell me about a deal you've just done with AllBright, because I think that's an amazing thing, and hopefully that will help it be more international. Or just tell us a little bit about that.
So we've just acquired a company called Every Woman, which is an incredible organization that's been around for 25 years, founded by these two brilliant women, Maxine and Karen. And essentially they have one mission, which is to advance women in business. They have the most incredible programs, coaching, events. They have events all around the world. They reach over 10 million employees around the world, and had been working on it for a year. So it was touch and go for a long time.
Well done.
I got rejected by 26 investors.
Did you? Amazing.
And I persisted quite a bit. So if there are any female founders out there listening, if you really believe in something, just don't give up. And then a few said yes to me, which enabled me to get it over the line. And I learned a lot. I learned a lot about how people perceive me and put me in a box, and they do that to all of us, and especially women. I learned that when I would go, especially when I go pitch to private equity firm, they put me in a box like, I don't know what I'm talking about. I don't know the finances. I don't come from an investment background. If they tell you which box they put you in, that's a gift. So then you can tell them quickly why you shouldn't be in that box. But otherwise, my job was to find out which box they put me in and how quickly I can.
Did some of them tell you which box?
Some of them
they
did,
put,
yeah. Like I don't think you can do this. I don't think you're suitable for this because you don't have the background of scaling companies and buying companies. Straight on.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, but I have a GM background. I have the background building global businesses. I can mine data, use that data to drive growth and build great teams. So it's using that 2-3 sentences to pitch yourself and get yourself out of that box.
Amazing.
Which you have to really think about what that is. And then I embraced talking about tech more and finance more as part of my overall pitch, which often I wasn't leading with at the beginning. And so I understood quickly what not the problem, but how I could get better at pitching.
And what they wanted to hear.
Exactly. And it's such a great example of how women can found businesses, sell businesses, and acquire businesses. Less than 1% of acquisitions are done by female leaders.
Really?
So this should, hopefully inspire other women to
do the
do the same. Yeah.
And will it make you more international as a
Yes,
group?
yeah. We're taking our big International Women's Day Summit to New York.
Oh, wonderful.
We're actually going to take it to the Middle East as well.
Fantastic.
So we'll be announcing that soon. But now it gives us a global footprint, which is one of the reasons we wanted to do it, to accelerate our growth.
So even more travel on the horizon.
Even more travel.
Hooray.
Even more travel.
Let's talk about food and drink, because food and drink is so important to all of our lives. We all love it. And it's very much part of travel.
Yeah.
How do you feel about food and drink? Do you go to the same restaurants? Do you have favorite restaurants? Do you have a favorite drink, bars? Let's just talk generally about travel and food and drink.
So when I'm traveling, I always like to try new restaurants, definitely. And I'll look up what's recommended, but I try to ask locals, and I try to just do walk-ins as well. So one of my favorite destinations is Lisbon, and I love Lisbon, a place I would move to as well.
That's so funny.
It's just got a great energy, right? The food's great, the people are wonderful. It's easy to get to. The weather's fantastic. It's quite international now, and the restaurants are just brilliant. So I will, when I was there in the summer for a girls' weekend. So I met some of my girlfriends and we spent 3 nights there. And we'll ask the staff that works at the hotel, where do you go? We wanted to find a beach club. What do you recommend? We'll speak to the taxi drivers. We'll ask people around us. So we booked a couple of the fancy places, the places you must go to. And I went to this fantastic restaurant called Rocco that was just brilliant. And I recommend it to everyone, just the decor around it and the vibe and the music, and the food was amazing. But then we got recommendations from the staff that work there, not just the concierge. We'll ask, the server who brings breakfast. We want to go to a beach club. Where would you recommend?
Where did they send you?
Oh, I don't remember the name, but they sent us about an hour away, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
A beautiful beach club, and we found a nice restaurant, and we spend the day there. And then what's sweet is the next day they see us, they ask us, how was it?
Yeah.
And they feel like they've contributed to our experience.
But also then you really are getting to see and under the skin of the destination, aren't you? Because you're not just going where the concierges are telling you.
Yeah, because it's so easy to just go to the top restaurants. Yeah. Now, when I go to places I know, like when I go to Greece, I will go to my regular ones. There's in the village, my cousin has a restaurant, and one of my best nights is when we all get together. We're like 25 of us. There's no menu. They just bring out
everything,
whatever's there for the day, everything, and we just eat. And I just think it's so much about the people you're with as well, and the vibes. There's this fantastic little Cuban bar called Havana Bar. And there's a couple that run it now, and I've been going there for 14 years, so they become good friends.
Lovely.
And they always make me the best daiquiri that's just not too sweet and not too icy, but also I like to smoke cigars. So every year I'll bring them some cigars. They'll bring me some cigars.
Oh,
and the man who runs it is Cuban, and he plays music. And so it's the music, it's the drinks, it's the whole vibe, and we always end up getting to know people around us. Yeah. So I always leave, the summer making 1 or 2 new friends from just hanging out at that bar that my friends run.
And can you smoke inside as well as outside in Greece, or is that smoking outside?
Smoking outside. Yeah. Nobody ever sits inside the restaurants.
Greece. No, exactly. It's too hot.
Exactly. We're outside. Yeah.
We used to go to a lovely island called Nidri. Do you know Nidri? I think it is, which is opposite Scorpios, which was the Onassis' island. And it was just so lovely. The nightclubs were outside, the restaurants were outside. And one day we actually got on a boat with Nick the Greek, who owned a taverna, and he took us on to Scorpios, and we had a look around because their family went there. It was absolutely gorgeous.
Well, Nidri is actually a town in Lefkada.
Oh, yes, exactly.
Yes, it's one of their busiest towns. Yeah.
So next time I go, I'm going to go to the Cuban
bar, Havana bar. It's fantastic.
What's your cocktail? What's your daiquiri? Do I just say a Viv Paxinos daiquiri?
The traditional she'll know Viv's daiquiri.
Viv's daiquiri, please.
And they've got one signature daiquiri, which is amazing.
I shall ask for that, and they'll know what I'm asking.
Exactly. I tend to drink, when I do drink, I'll have anything with usually gin. I don't do daiquiris usually, but they make the daiquiri so well there. Yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah. So what is your top insider travel secret or tip when you're traveling?
Something that I've loved to do, and I've started to do it more in the last few years, is taking a cooking lesson. and the destination I go to. And I think that's such a nice way to get to know the culture and just feel like you've turned like a trip into a real adventure. So when I went to Italy a few years ago, I took a pasta making class.
Oh, wow.
And that was so fun. And it's not something I would normally do because although I'm such an extrovert, when I travel, I like to be an introvert and not talk to anyone. Avoid eye contact as much as I can. But I thought it's nice to just do something, use my hands and learn something. I did the same when I went to Lisbon. So I did the same when I went to Madrid, which I love as well. And I think doing something local, like a local activity, is just such a great way I find it's beyond immersing yourself, right? Just living like the locals and getting to know them it's something I love to do.
Yes. And actually I was in Marrakesh and Casablanca last week and they were telling me the most popular thing that they get asked now by guests is to go and cook with a local. And I had never thought about it.
It's such a great experience. And the other thing I'd recommend is just not to overplan. So one of my best experiences, I love South Africa. And one year we did the garden route and I was on schedule. Like we have to stop here at this time, here at this time, here at this time. And then we were passing this beautiful national park and my husband says, this looks really nice. We should stop. I'm like, no.
It's not on my itinerary.
It's not on my itinerary. It's not on the plan. We got to keep going. I need to get to Plettenberg Bay by a certain time. And he's like, we're going to stop. And we stopped. And it was I forget the name, but it was one of the most beautiful national parks.
How lovely.
Ever. And it was just by the coast. And I remember so clearly, like it was yesterday, the way the waves were crashing into the rocks and that sound and I felt so lucky to be there.
It wasn't called Peninsula, was it?
No. I should have looked it up before I came on. I thought,
no, don't worry,
But it was just absolutely beautiful.
Lovely. I love that garden route. It's so wonderful. From Franschhoek, there's the most amazing. I mean, all the hotels are gorgeous, but the La Résidence is one of the nicest hotels I've ever stayed in my life. And it's owned by the Royal Portfolio, a lady called Liz Biden. And she has Birkenhead House in Hermanus. Okay. So you do Franschhoek, Hermanus, and then up to Plettenberg, which I'm sure is the route that you had on your itinerary. But it's a fantastic thing. And I actually was a bit worried about when I went to South Africa, my security and everything, but I felt very safe.
Totally safe. I remember having a picnic at Boschendal winery and it was so beautiful because you're out there having this amazing picnic and you have the backdrop of Table Mountain.
Yes, it's amazing.
And it's just the most spectacular. It's by far one of my favorite places. Yeah. We drove all the way to Eastern Cape to an elephant park called Addo Elephant Park.
Oh, lovely.
We stayed at this fantastic camp called Gora, I believe. And I mean, we were dining with like elephants. Yeah, so you dress up really nice at night. Everyone was in like beautiful dresses and you've got animals walking around. It's just so beautiful.
It's a lovely place to go on holiday, I think, South Africa. And also although it's a 10, I think, hour flight, there's no time difference and it's an overnight flight. So you actually can sleep. Yeah. It's
one of my
place.
top three. Yeah. With actually, I have so many top places with Lisbon, Tokyo, Greece, South Africa, but Cape Town specifically in that garden route.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
And I think you start when you're in a place surrounded by so much natural beauty. You feel so small, which is great because you feel there's just so much else, so much more to see. And I just think it's so inspiring. I remember going up Table Mountain. I thought, God, this is just beautiful.
Oh, amazing. Yeah. One of the places I really want to go where I'm sure I will feel that is New Zealand. I've never been to New Zealand, but so many of my friends have. And I just think it looks so beautiful. It's just such a long way to go. You have to have a lot of time.
Yeah, I've been to Australia for work a few times and that I only Sydney. Yeah. And it's gorgeous, lovely city, but it is far and the jet lag's bad. So South Africa works because it's just such an easy flight.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
I've actually been to most of sub-Saharan Africa because I love it so much.
So do you go on safaris?
I have been, I have been. I haven't in a few years, but I will start going once my little one's a little bit older. Yeah.
How old are they, your kids?
So 4 and 12.
Okay, so the 4-year-old's got to be a bit...
He's got to be a little bit older.
Yeah,
to go on safaris. A few more, exactly.
Actually, David Gandhi, who was on this top podcast, was very funny about South Africa because he loves Africa. And he said when he goes on safaris, they say, make sure you keep your hands in the Jeep and you don't, you're fodder for the lions or whatever. So you'll be very still. Yeah. And so they all sit there like this. And then at 6 o'clock, they get the tables out and the sundowners and they have a cocktail party in exactly the same place. And he's like, how does this work? It was really amusing, actually.
I'm sure my little one would be like, can I pet the lion?
Yes,
that's what he does with dogs now. When he says, can I pet the dog?
Not the lions, darling. No, not yet. Oh, funny. So what is your most poignant travel experience? Something that's really left a mark on you?
I would have to say it's South Africa would have been it. It really, I've also been to Durban in South Africa, which I wasn't expecting it to be as wonderful. I don't know why, I just had this perception. And I was so moved by it. The people I went to visit, different villages. I spent quite a lot of time with some children, and just that whole country has left such an impact on me. It's people are so generous. They're so kind.
Did you work with African children in a school or an orphanage or something?
Exactly, yeah. And they're so connected to themselves because they don't have, especially the children, they don't have devices. They're not on their phones. And it just brings you down to this really raw, real level. And you just feel so connected and so present. Yeah. So I think that entire country has just made such an impact. I can't wait to take my kids there. Such an impact to me. And it's just, the people, like you said, I never worry about my safety when I'm there. People are really just kind and helpful. I remember getting a flat tire on the Garn route and people came, helped. And it's just, but I think it's just how connected people are with what's around them, and they appreciate all of that.
And somebody else, I can't remember who it was that I interviewed, said the most lovely thing that they saw in Africa was all the school children running to school with no shoes on, one pencil, and the biggest smile on their face because they were able to go to school. Yeah. When you think about all the problems we're having now post-COVID with people not wanting to go to school and not going to offices and things, he said it was just such a lovely thing to see.
Yeah, I think I'm saying the same thing. They're so connected with being present and being able to do these, little important things, but they're just so happy. And it just gives you such a sense of... you feed off that happiness, right? And I'm really big on presence, right? And being present in that moment. And I find that's hard to do these days because we're so distracted with our devices. And I'm always
taking a photo of the place instead of actually just
and I'm always a million miles an hour, right? And it's and I do say that I focus on presence when I think about well-being. So when I'm with somebody, meeting with somebody, I'm really focused on them. That. And I just think they do that naturally, where we have to really think about it.
And make ourselves do it.
Yeah, so I think that place has had a real impact. And because there's so much natural beauty, you realize actually your problems, issues are just so insignificant because you're part of something so much bigger.
Yeah, absolutely. So finally, I asked you to bring a photograph which summed up travel to you. And can you show us the photograph and talk to us about what that photograph means to you?
Oh gosh, yes. So the photograph I have, you've probably seen, is the one with my dad. It's the one where I'm in a village. We're actually on the patio and we're just dancing. And I absolutely love it. And it's those moments, and it's not just because it's my dad, but it's those moments of spontaneity, those moments of joy that I think travel brings to you. And it's just super simple, simplistic. It was just, it wasn't staged. It was just, we heard a great song. My dad said, let's dance. We haven't danced in a while. The whole family was around us, but we felt like nobody was there.
Oh, it's such a wonderful photograph. I love that photograph. And it's such a great summary of what life and travel is about, isn't it?
Yeah.
It really is.
It's the people you connect with. Yeah. It's those surprises, those unexpected moments. It's the joy. I mean, you can just see the smile on my face in that photo. Yeah. So when I posted and I shared that with, people were, I got so many emails on the back of it.
I bet you did, yeah. So, and as I said, I had read the article and it really I remembered it so clearly because it really was
But that's
just
what
so
travel
joyous.
is, isn't it? It's that joy, that spontaneity, those moments that delight you and that are unexpected with people you love, if you're lucky enough.
We are so lucky and so privileged to go to such amazing places. And it has been such a joy and a delight to listen to all of your travel tales. What's next for you? Where are you going next? And obviously, you've got this new company that you're going to be emerging into your own. So,
It's
what's
about world
next?
domination. But I need to integrate them first. I need to build my one team, one culture. We're now very much into planning for next year. So we've got our big Step Forward Summit, which is our empowerment summit that sees, actually, it grew from 150 people in the club to now we take it off-site and we have 700 people coming to it.
Amazing.
So it's quite a heavy lift. So it's taking that flagship event around the world and just continuing to do the great work that we do, to create a business that's commercially viable, but also that is purpose driven. And that's the passion that I've got, is to how do we bring those two worlds together. Yeah.
Well, the very best of luck with everything.
Thank you.
And enjoy every moment of it and enjoy the travel. And thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks
It's
for
been
having me.
divine.
Thank you for having me.